is you see a part of the exhibition on Spike Island in one of the cells. It's interesting that you heard Carl the guide say that in 1985 there was a riot on Spike Island, and it was only after the riot in 1985 that you had the introduction of art used as a form of education. So it's quite fitting that the exhibition on Spike is in Spike, because this is really where the art education programme within the Cork Education Unit begins. So what I'm going to do is take you on a virtual tour around a few of the objects and then to decode it using the Project Zero, but also thinking about some of the implications of a Foucauldian reading, a reading that Foucault would give in relation to knowledge and power in the artwork. So here we have two pieces, two paintings. These are the two paintings that I want to speak to you about. Some of them are painted, some of them are in collage. Do you know what collage is? Where you take an assemblage, you take pieces of paper, you rip them up, and you stick them on board. We find in this context that collage is actually quite easy, because it means that many of the students who aren't naturally artistic, they're able to cut pieces of paper up and assemble them, and do this relatively quickly and artistically as well. So collage tends to be a very useful medium to teach practice. So the first one is by a student who was responding to a conversation that we had on a painting. This is a piece of stained glass art by Harry Clark. Remember, we went at the beginning of the week to the Cronin Chapel, and I told you that the majority of the windows in the Cronin Chapel are by the Dublin artist Harry Clark. Well, this is one of his windows, and it is a subject called the Eve of St. Agnes. And it is today in the Dublin City Gallery, the Hugh Lane in Dublin. The work opposite, on the right, is what the student gives as their response to the image of Harry Clark's stained glass. So I've entitled this The Windows of Wonder. There is a book called The Windows of Wonder, which is about teaching and the power of educators to release creativity and imagination through story and narrative. And what the student is responding to in this case is thinking about what are the implications of windows. And there is a tension between the two types of window that you see here, the stained glass window and also the prism window. Not just the window, but also you can see details such as the razor wire on the wall of a prism. So here we have the tension between confinement and the release through education into the world of creativity and the imagination. And he was very proud in particular of his little epigram, which reads, "Tensions are high, communications are low," which emerged from a conversation about the art of communication, of good communication, to reduce tension and to promote resilience within a prison context. Prisons, as you're aware, are very violent places. So the art of communication is something that can diffuse tension, tone down the violence, and this is what resonated with this particular student. The second response is a painting from the 1930s by Paul Henry. Very famous painting. It's called A Connemara Village, and it is in the National Gallery in Dublin. The image opposite is the student's response. And if we look at this image, I've entitled it Pathways to Freedom. Because what is going on here is a link between art and memory. The student, again, plays on the theme of windows. The barred window seems to be melting away as the index finger points to the bars and they melt. And what flows around the window is mathematical formula, including Einstein's very famous E equals mc squared. In the bottom is a take on the Henry's Connemara village, but it's not so much a painting, rather it's a collage, it's an assemblage. And what it's showing us, or what it evokes for the student, is a memory of their own childhood, being taken into the countryside and to a place of warmth, community and seclusion, away from the urban, violent environment in which this student was growing up in. And the other thing that he was struck by was that he remembered through the conversation that he had been good at something. He had been good at school. He had been good at mathematics. And so he remembers his potential for being good at something. It was a remembering of a memory that had been forgotten. The power of art in this case is being used to put a person back into contact with their own subjectivity in order to begin a new conversation as to where they could potentially go in this pathway. We speak in higher education now of education as a progression pathway. And this, I think, is a visualization of that idea. I'm going to stop at that for the moment.